Yet another new cordless inflator from Makita. This time, however, not in the 18-volt format, no, not even in the 12-volt format, but we're talking about the new 40-volt battery inflator from Makita in the XGT series, specifically the MP001GZ. I'm sure we're all very excited to see what we can expect from this new 40-volt device today and what this inflator has to offer. That's exactly what we'll be looking at in detail in today's video. So, let's get started. But if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to this channel now and activate the bell to not miss any more videos. As always, you can find the current prices below in the video description. Thank you for your support, and let's get started after the intro. The 40-volt XGT system from Makita is known for performance, endurance, and durability. But does this also apply to this new battery inflator? We'll find out. But first, let's start with the contents of the package. There isn't much to see on the product box. We have the image of the inflator here at the front, then the name in several languages, the abbreviation here at the bottom. It looks the same on the side, and on the back, as usual, the display of the key features. So, let's get started with the contents. Let's see what we actually get here. That's all there is to it. The product box is empty, which means we get the battery inflator itself, the MP001, a user manual in several languages, and another leaflet, a declaration of conformity stating that the inflator complies with various regulations and standards. The main focus is now on this battery inflator, and I would say that this device already looks familiar to many. Why is that? Quite simply, here for reference, the 18-volt inflator from Makita, the MP181. You see what I mean? These two inflators are more than similar, hopefully only externally, because I'm excited to see what the new 40-volt device from Makita has to offer internally. Also worth mentioning at this point, both this one, the DMP181, and the slightly smaller colleague, the DMP180. I've already introduced and tested both inflators separately. You can find the videos here at the top right on the info card. And of course, if you're interested, I can also let these two devices, the 18-volt and the 40-volt device, go head-to-head. Just leave a short comment below in the video description so I know. And now, let's move on to the to the MP001GZ, the 40-volt inflator. The 18-volt variant can be set aside for now. So, here it is, the new cordless inflator from Makita in the 40-volt XGT format. As already mentioned, visually very similar to the 18-volt model, the DMP181. Most of the device is, as expected, in the typical turquoise color that we know from Makita. On the left side, we have the Makita branding. Also very important, here at the back is the XGT logo in red, and everything we see in black is not hard plastic, but rubberized. The only obvious and direct difference between these two devices is the XGT logo at the back, indicating the battery class, meaning it's a 40-volt device. This is also evident by the fact that at the battery slot at the back, we don't have 3 pins as is usual for 18-volt devices, but 5 pins for the 40-volt batteries. For this, I've dug out 2 batteries, the typical 40-volt 4 amp-hour block and the slightly smaller 40-volt 2.5 amp-hour one. Both batteries fit seamlessly into this battery inflator, as do all other 40-volt batteries, but obviously not 18-volt or 14.4-volt ones, only 40-volt XGT batteries. With that in mind, I would say it's time for a quick size and weight check. As mentioned earlier, the MP001GZ, the 40-volt inflator, is definitely not the smallest. This means that if you're looking for a super compact and handy battery inflator, you're definitely better off with the DMP180, the 18-volt inflator from Makita. Nevertheless, this variant is also not too big or bulky. Let's see if the scale agrees. Starting with the solo device without the battery, as you can see, it weighs about 2,180 grams plus the small battery, so 40 volts, 2.5 amp hours. Now we have a total gross weight of around 2,800 to 2,900 grams. That's definitely acceptable. And just to check with the slightly larger battery, the 40-volt 4 amp-hour one. As you can see, here too we have around 3,180 grams, so also not too heavy. In this context, it's also evident that with the large 4 amp-hour battery, the MP001 is perfectly balanced with the center of gravity nicely in the middle. Moving on to the underside, here too we find, as usual, 2 rubber feet to ensure that the inflator has a secure and non-slip stand. The whole setup works pretty well and, as you can see, the center of gravity is nicely balanced so the inflator doesn't tip over easily. For carrying, there's a nicely sized handle on the top which, as you can see, is very well rubberized. We have rubber on top and even some light ridging on the bottom, making it very non-slip and, as you can see, sufficiently large. Designed for the index finger, the corresponding trigger to activate the inflator is located on the underside. As you can see, it's smooth, has a good pressure point, and can be operated by both right-handed and left-handed users. But I know for most of you, this will be a big disappointment because, I know you well, there's no locking mechanism here either. And yes, I know many of you were hoping that at least the new 40-volt inflator from Makita would have a locking mechanism. Unfortunately, that's not the case here either. This means you have to continuously hold the trigger or use something like a Velcro strap to bypass this mechanism. It looks essentially the same when we take a closer look at the other buttons on the MP001. On the left side, we have the activation button, a regular membrane switch, so you just press it once and the inflator is activated. On the top, there's the display, which is also very easy to read. Below that are 3 buttons, minus, plus, and M. I feared it. These 2 inflators are not only very similar externally, but apparently also internally. This means that when we look at the menu, if you can call it that, it's exactly the same. To save some time here, I'll refer you once again to the video of the DMP181, the one over here, because in that video, I've already explained the entire setup or menu in detail. So if you haven't seen that video yet, definitely check it out. I'll link it here on the info card at the top right or in the video description below. So here too, we can easily switch between PSI, bar, and kPa. The current pressure is shown at the top, and the target pressure, where the inflator will automatically shut off, is shown at the bottom. This feature is also present on the MP001. Also identical, the 3 available modes, indicated by these 3 black lines. The smallest is the ball mode, where the frequency or pump frequency of the inflator is significantly reduced to prevent overpressure. Next is the middle mode, and finally, the high performance mode, where the inflator operates at maximum frequency. If the pressure gets too high, we can easily release it again using this small black button. Let's continue with the front side. As you can currently see, the MP001 also has a built-in LED for illuminating, or rather for finding the valve. Very practical when you're working in the evening or in small corners, as it helps you find the valve easily. Moving on to the front, here the included adapters are hidden. At the top, in black, is the air mattress adapter, directly below it is an adapter for the French valve, and of course, the ball adapter is also included. The remaining connections are located directly on the inflator, specifically on the air hose. Just like the DMP181, the MP001 has a nice long air hose, measuring 65 centimeters in total, and at the very end, there's a large-sized kink protection to ensure it lasts as long as possible. At the end of the hose are the most important valves, including the connector for the Schrader valve, the standard car valve. As you can see, it has a screw cap rather than a lever mechanism. If you don't like this, it's no problem. You can screw on an adapter to have a lever mechanism. I'll link the adapter in the video description below. Also attached is the connector for the Dunlop valve. Again, very similar to the DMP181. And lastly, on the other, right side of the inflator, there are 3 small plastic clips where you can securely store the hose. Before we move on to the test, let's touch on the most important point, the performance data. I skipped over this initially as it's, unfortunately, largely identical to the 18-volt model. Well, maybe not entirely. This inflator also achieves a maximum pressure of 11.1 bar, which is quite impressive, and an air volume of 24 liters per minute, which is a notable 2 liters more than the 18-volt device. However, today's video isn't about that. We want to see how the 40-volt inflator from Makita really performs. So, let's take a look at that now. Sit back and let's get started with the practical test. So let's jump right into the practical test with the new 40-volt battery inflator from Makita, the MP001. As you can see, it's equipped with the large 40-volt 4-amp-hour battery, freshly charged for maximum runtime. I'm curious to see how this device performs in today's test. We'll start with the usual pressure test where I check the inflator for accuracy. For this, I have a digital manometer and we'll start at a pressure of 5 bars. As you can see, you can't really see anything on the display through the camera. Repeating the test with 11.1 bars, and again, the display is not visible. But I can tell you the inflator is very accurate, comparable to the DMP-181, the 18-volt version. Now let's move on to the first test object, the bicycle tire. As you can see, I've completely removed the valve core to ensure the tire is fully deflated. The target pressure is set to 3.5 bars. I'm curious to see how long the inflator takes to inflate the tire from 0 to 3.5 bars. Here in the video, you can see the stopwatch. It's also worth mentioning that the inflator is set to the highest level, level 3. And that's it. The inflator has automatically shut off. The target pressure is reached within 22 seconds, which is really not bad. Next, let's step it up a notch with a car tire. As you can see here, the target pressure is set to 2 bars. I've completely deflated the car tire so we can see how long the inflator takes to go from 0 to the target pressure. Again, the inflator has automatically deactivated once the set pressure of 2 bars was reached, as you can more or less see on the display, after about 1 minute and 36 seconds. I'd say that's quite reasonable for a car tire. And of course, you can also release the pressure. If the pressure is too high, you can use the pressure release button. Now let's move on to the extreme test with a large air mattress. Let's see how long the inflator takes for this task. As shown in the previous review, the inflator comes with various tips and attachments, including the air mattress adapter, making it easy to inflate. I'd say that's enough. The air mattress is fully inflated after about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Quite an impressive result. Finally, let's quickly check the battery status. As you can see, after this brief test, not much has changed, with 4 bars still available. This means the inflator, paired with the large 4-amp-hour battery, definitely has good endurance. In summary, I believe the new MP001, the 40-volt battery inflator from Makita, makes a good and solid impression when it comes to inflating smaller objects, like car tires or bicycle tires. However, for larger objects like an air mattress, it struggles similarly to the two 18-volt inflators. In my opinion, an upgrade from the 18-volt system would not be worth it, as the new 40-volt inflator doesn't offer significant advantages over the 18-volt models. This model is mainly recommended for those new to the 40-volt system or those planning to fully switch to this system. Now it's your turn. What do you think of this new 40-volt battery inflator from Makita? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, I'd say I'm pretty much done. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to never miss a video. As always, you can find the current prices to support my work in the video description below. Thank you very much for your help. Stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.